Well, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, afternoon, evening. I know we have people registered from a lot of different countries and time zones, and we really appreciate all of you being here today. I will tell you right away that this webinar is being recorded, and we will send you a recording a little later today. You can use the Q&A section if you have any questions. I will try to answer as many questions as I can during the webinar, but I also encourage you to focus on what our main speaker, Brian Hock, will be talking about, because it's possible that he will cover a lot of your questions during the presentation. And then at the end of the webinar, we will have time to some live Q&As, and Brian will answer your questions as well. I also want to let you know that our topic today is how to choose the best certification for your career. And we will be focusing primarily on what those certifications are. We will not be getting into details about costs and details of syllabus. It will be a general overview of different certifications in finance and accounting, and you'll know more in just a little bit. And now I'm excited to present you our main speaker, and it is Brian Hock, and he is the founder and CEO of HOCK International. And he truly is one of the best people to talk about certifications, because Brian himself has CMA, CIA, CRMA, FMAA, and CSCA certifications. And Brian also passed all CPA exams, although he is not a licensed CPA, as was his personal choice. But not only Brian wrote a lot of study materials for many certifications for US and British companies and all kind of textbooks and study materials and video lectures. I'm sure you're familiar with some of those. Brian also is a holder of all of these certifications, as you can see on screen. Please do scan QR code or find Brian on LinkedIn to connect with him. It's always a great way to expand your network and follow each other. And I will not take any more of your time. And Brian, please continue.
Thank you very much, Julia. And thank you, everyone, for giving us some of your time, either this evening, this afternoon, or this morning. My goal is to make this time as value add as possible for you. And so the goal is at the end of this time, you feel that you were glad that you attended. As Julia said, what we're going to be talking about today is professional certifications. And this is something that is actually very important in terms of not only making a decision about a professional certification and becoming certified, but also which certification to choose. Okay, this is a very important thing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a handful of things today. We've got a brief agenda. We're going to talk about professional certifications. Is it a requirement or is it a preference? Okay, how urgent is it that we do this? We're going to talk about choosing the right certification and how that starts with your goals. We're going to take an overview of the key certifications, kind of the more popular ones around the world. And then we're going to talk about what you need to do after you choose to get a professional certification, what it is to take that plan and actually make that happen for you and to get the benefits from that. But what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about this question about, are professional certifications a requirement or a preference? And the answer to that is, for the most part, professional certifications are a preference. There are some situations in which a professional certification is required to do certain things. And for example, CPA, US CPA, as Julia mentioned, I passed all of the exams. I could have become licensed. I could have gotten my CPA license, but I chose not to. And here's why. In the United States, if you are a CPA, you are allowed to sign audit reports. Okay? You can sign at the bottom of the audit report that you did this audit and whatever that opinion is. You are also able to sign someone's tax returns as a preparer of the tax returns. And that's really about it. Okay? Those are the only legal requirements benefits that you get from being a CPA. So if you want to sign audit opinions in the United States, you need to be a CPA. That's a requirement. If you don't want to sign audit opinions and you don't want to prepare tax returns for somebody else in the United States, then being a CPA is a preference. There is no requirement for you to be a CPA. And so in some countries, there may be a requirement that in order to sign audit opinions, in order to be a chief accountant, you must have a specific certification. But for the most part, that choice of becoming certified is preference. You're not doing it because there's a legal requirement. You're doing it because it's going to help you in your career. And so in most cases, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the choice to become certified, and then the choice to identify the certification that is going to help you achieve what it is that you want to achieve. I personally believe that professional certifications are essentially the best investment you can make in yourself, the best investment that you're able to make in your future career. And I tell a story, some of you may have heard this, but the university I graduated from is called Miami University in the United States. And so when I tell you that I graduated from Miami University, if you have an opinion or have a thought about that, most likely you are thinking about Miami, Florida, Disney World, spring break, palm trees, and beaches. Okay, that's the Miami that the world knows is in Florida. Well, the university that I attended is called Miami University, and it's in a different state. We don't have beaches. We don't have the ocean. We don't have Disney World here. And I tell this because what that means is when I tell you where I graduated from university, it means nothing to you. Now, when I graduated from Miami, it was one of the top accounting programs in the country, and it still is. But you don't know that. I say I graduated from Miami, and you have completely the wrong idea in your mind. But with a professional certification, doesn't matter what university you attended. If I say I passed the CPA exam, I say I'm a CMA, I say I'm CIA, you know what that means. Now, I understand you may not know entirely the syllabus of that exam, but you are able to go online, find that exam, see what's on the syllabus, and you're able to then know what I know. So that's what certifications do. They allow you to communicate very quickly to somebody else what you know. And we see this in job advertisements. When you go and you're looking at some companies advertising and they're listing the requirements they want from their candidate, they don't mention a specific university. They mention professional certifications. We want an ACCA, we want a CMA, we want a CIA, we want a CPA, we want CFA, whatever the case may be. Because that company knows that if you have a certain certification, you come to them with a certain skill set. They know what you learned to pass your exam. And so a professional certification is a tremendous investment. Studies show that you make more money if you're certified than if you're not certified. You will have opportunities that other people don't have. You will be promoted more quickly. You will be given transfers or opportunities to be on the exciting projects, the new teams, whatever the case may be. And so professional certification for almost everybody is going to be a very, very good investment. However, what we want to make certain, though, is that when you make that investment, and there's a time investment, there's a money investment. When you make that investment, you're making it into the right certification. And I'll give you kind of a, just kind of the importance of this. If you get a certification that isn't connected to the area that you want to go into, yes, there's a benefit to being certified, but it's clearly not going to help you as much. If you graduate from university with a degree in engineering, and then you show up at a job and you apply for a job as a psychologist, okay, having your university degree is a good thing, but it's not the right degree to help you do the job you want to do. And so what you need to be looking at is making certain that you are choosing the certification that works best for you. And I know talking to people that sometimes there's an idea that, oh, this is the certification my colleague got, so I want to get the same certification. This is the certification my friend got, my brother, my sister got, and I want to get the same certification. We need to keep in mind that just because a certain certification is the right certification for one person it may not be the right certification for you. And so this all comes down to you making this decision, not the certification that your friend has, not the certification that your relative has, not the certification that your university is advertising to you even. You need to make certain that the certification you choose is the certification that is going to help you the most. And so what you need to be doing is you need to be looking into the future. Don't look currently, really. I mean, that'll be part of it to look at what you're doing now, but the emphasis needs to be not on now, but on what do you want to be doing. Most certifications are going to take a year, 2 years, 3 years to complete. And so you need to be thinking in 2 years, what is the job that I want? And once I know what is that job that I want, what are the skills that I need? What are the tools that I need? Or perhaps even what is the certification I need? What is it that people are going to ask for when they're hiring? Okay, what is it that I'm going to need to be ready for that job 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Okay, and so you start asking things like, if you're an internal auditor now, do you want to be the chief audit executive? Is that your career path? Or maybe you're an internal auditor now, but you don't like it very much. You don't think, I don't think I want to be doing this. I think I want to get into accounting. I want to get into finance. So it's not what you're doing now, it's what you want to be. Okay? If you're in the accounting department, do you want to be the finance director in 5 years, 10 years? And if so, what are the skills that you're going to need to do that? And the other one that happens more and more frequently now is people want to start their own business. They don't want to work for somebody else. They have an idea, they have that passion, they have that hobby that they want to make into a job. And so you're looking to start out on your own. So what are the skills, the tools, the knowledge that you're going to need in a couple of years when you do that? So this is a question that I can't help you with. I can ask the question. I can tell you what questions you need to ask yourself in terms of what do you want to think about, or what are things you should be considering in terms of determining or deciding what it is that you want to be doing in a couple of years. But that's a question that only you're able to answer. Nobody else can answer that for you. And so this is why we're talking about, you need to choose which is the right certification for you, not somebody else. What is the right certification for you? It's possible you go to work and there's 5 of you sit there together every day. You go to lunch every day together, and all those other 4 people are all planning to study a certain certification. That may be what they want to do. Maybe they want to be the finance director. Maybe they want to move into corporate finance. Maybe they all have the same career goals. But if you don't share that same career goal as they have, you don't need the same certification that they have. And so I've said it a couple times already, when you're looking at making this decision about what certification is right for you, the discussion, that whole conversation with yourself has to be about you, not what others are doing, not what your friends are doing, not what your parents think you need to do. But you need to ask yourself, in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, what do I want to be doing? What is the position that I want to have? What is the industry that I want to be in? And then you need to start making the decisions about what's going to give you those skills and that knowledge and the resources. This is a little bit, sometimes I make presentations about, just your career path. And the analogy to it is that if you're a sailboat on a lake, you have to be active in deciding how you want to sail your boat, or you're just going to end up in some random place based on the winds that day. And the same is true with your career. It's up to you to determine where it is that you want to go. If it's an industry, you need to make certain that you're learning the skills that you need in that industry. If it's a certain geography, there's a certain place you want to work, a country or a city or a region, whatever the case may be, you need to make certain that you understand what types of jobs are available there, what types of companies work there, what types of industries work there, what language is spoken there, perhaps, so that you can learn what it is that you need to learn to be able to be successful in that geographic location. And the same is true with your certifications. You need to be able to identify what it is you're trying to do. And people can help you then identify what is the certification that you need to have. And so what we're going to do now is, on that foundation of what we need to be considering when we choose a certification for us, we're now going to talk very briefly about some of the different certifications, some of the more common certifications that are out there, and who they're for, what they do, and some of these may be new to you, in which case maybe you'll find a certification that you didn't know about before that might be what it is that you're looking for. And I'll give you an example about certifications. There are more certifications out there than you would ever have any idea about. Okay, there's a lot that I know, there's a lot that I don't know. And I'll give an example. A little while ago, I was talking with my older brother who started as a CPA, and I asked him what certifications he has. And he answered, and I had never heard of either of them. He had two, and neither of them were ones that I was aware of. But then when I thought about what it is that he does, and I thought about the names of those certifications and what it seemed those certifications covered, and it fit perfectly. And so I tell this story to let you know that you're probably going to get more than one certification in your career, actually. You're going to start, if you're earlier in your career, you're going to get kind of what I call a foundational, a broader certification. And that's what we're looking at here, kind of broad-based certifications. But as you work and as you get experience, you're going to become specialized a little bit. And as you become specialized, whether it's treasury or controller or finance or accounting, whatever your area of specialty is, there's probably a certification that's much more narrow and much more specific in what it is that it does, what it is that it covers, and the skills that it teaches you. And so you may start now, and you may determine that, CMA is the best certification for you right now. Well, 3 years from now, you may need another certification that's going to help you take that next step in your career. And so this is not necessarily a one and done. This isn't something that you're only going to have to go through once. There may be multiple times as you go through your career that you're looking at these certifications. And again, whether it's now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now, the focus needs to be on you and what it is that you want to do going forward. So with that as the foundation, let's go ahead and turn our attention to a few of the different certifications we'll talk about. The first one we'll talk about is the U.S. CPA. I know that a lot of countries have a CPA certification within their own country. Here we're talking about the U.S. CPA. This is the certification that may be the best known around the world in kind of a general accounting and finance area. This is a certification that's external audit firms, finance roles, and large multinationals will expect you to be a CPA. Now, again, going back to the example I said at the beginning, the legal status of CPA, as far as I know, exists only in the United States. But companies in other countries, they're looking for people to have the education and the knowledge that comes with being a CPA. And so when we're talking about CPAs, we're talking about audit, tax, financial reporting, financial planning are the skills that CPAs are going to do. And this is often required for senior finance and accounting leadership positions. It may be that if you're working for an audit firm, they want you to pass the CPA exam as soon as you can, but they don't want you to become licensed, or they don't require you to become licensed until you reach a certain level, whether it's manager, senior manager, whatever the case may be. Corporations may be happy for you to pass the CPA exam, but they really need you to be licensed in the senior levels within that organization. Okay, and so that's CPA and the career path for CPAs. The next one that we'll look at is ACCA. Just a personal story. My connection with ACCA, I think began in 1996 is the first time that I taught ACCA. And so I've been involved with ACCA kind of in the periphery, at least for the past 30 years. And so I've seen some changes made to this. This is core accounting and finance functions, similar to what CPA is teaching. There's a lot more exams in ACCA and a lot more administrative issues connected to that. ACCA is well respected and recognized worldwide, some countries more so than others, but if you have ACCA, it's most likely going to be known and recognized wherever it is that you're going. The eligibility requirements to take the ACCA exam are much simpler, much more easily achieved than for CPA. One of the difficulties with the US CPA exam is becoming eligible and meeting the eligibility requirements to take the exam. ACCA has a lot more exams than the American-based certifications. Take a few years to complete. You can get exemptions from a number of the exams based on your university education, but it's much more likely that it's going to take a little bit longer to go through the ACCA process of exams than it's going to take you to go through the CPA exams. The next one that we'll look at is the Chartered Financial Analyst, CFA. This is focused on investment analysis, portfolio management, and financial strategy. This is a certification that is a charter, I guess. It's not a certified, it's a charter, but this is one that's growing in popularity in some markets around the world, some countries around the world. And this is one that there are 3 exams, not getting into all the details, but the third exam is such high-level math that I think there's a lot of candidates who start CFA and have difficulty coming out the other end of it because of that level of math that is required. CFA gets a lot into portfolio management, all of the math skills connected to that. And I'll be honest, I look at some of those formulas and don't really know what it is that they're trying to do, but that's okay. And so this is investment banks, insurance companies, large financial institutions are who are looking for CFA. It's not an easy exam process, but it's one that if that's the industry that you're going into, then CFA is certainly the certification around the world for people going into investment banking and portfolio management and those types of areas. The next certification is Enrolled Agent, and this is a certification that's starting to grow in the United States and outside the United States. There are some limitations, though, as to where the exam is able to be taken. This specializes exclusively in U.S. taxation. That's it. Okay, if it's about U.S. tax, it's on this exam. It's part of the Enrolled Agents exam. If it's not about U.S. tax code, it's not on the Enrolled Agent exam. That's all it is. Enrolled agents are able to represent taxpayers in the United States before the Internal Revenue Service. They're able to have that representation. And this makes them similar to CPAs and attorneys in that CPAs and attorneys are also able to represent taxpayers. But what's different about an enrolled agent is that their certification process is entirely taxation. And so the CPA exam covers tax and the EA exam covers tax. Okay, what's on the EA exam, the depth of the tax code that is tested, the depth of that tax knowledge is much higher in the enrolled agent exam than it is on the CPA exam. And so enrolled agent is ideal for somebody who wants a career centered on tax and representation of people. This is a US-based certification in terms of it's connected to the US tax code. There are significant and growing outsourced business, especially in India, of enrolled agents providing support for accountants and taxpayers in the United States. This is also a great certification if you're interested in being an entrepreneur. One of the career paths for enrolled agents in the United States is to essentially start a business where you're providing that tax advice, that tax service to people. Usually better if you get a couple of years of experience working with somebody else before you start out on your own. But this is certainly a career path for somebody who likes tax and also wants to have a little bit more freedom in their schedule and in their work than being an employee at another organization. Then we come to Certified Management Accountant, CMA. This is the US CMA. Again, other countries also have a Certified Management Accountant, a CMA designation, but what it is that we're talking about for here is the CMA that's given by the Institute of Management Accountants in the US. This is a very, very good foundational certification for people that are looking at accounting, finance, and management that don't have a specific, this is exactly what I want to be doing. I like business. I want to be in accounting. I want to be in finance. I don't have an area of speciality already identified yet. And so remember, I said a little bit ago that a lot of times a person will get a foundational certification. And then as they get some experience, as they get that, kind of know what direction they're going to go, they get a second certification that's more narrow and specific to what it is that they want to do. CMA is a tremendously good certification for that foundational career. Your first few years in accounting, finance, management, CMA is an excellent certification for that. It's a very practical certification in that everything on the exam is what businesses do. I've been teaching CMA for 25 years now. I taught my first CMA class in the year 2000. And so we've been doing this a long time. And one of the things that I've always enjoyed about CMA is that their curriculum is practical and it's relevant to what it is that people are doing in business. And so it covers how businesses operate and how businesses make decisions, how the managers are making the decisions, what information is included, what information do we need to make this decision, and also what information do we not need? How do we separate the information that we need from the information that we don't need to make these decisions that we run for the business? And so this is not only about accounting. This is about operations, planning, budgeting, analysis, all of that goes into running a business. I also would say that if somebody's interested in operating a business by themselves, this is the certification that gives you the tools and the knowledge to do that. This is helping professionals add value across departments. It's not only accounting, it's not only finance, but we're understanding how the business operates and how it is that we're able to add value to the larger organization. The next certification that we'll look at is CIMA. This is the UK-based CIMA, and this is one of the British equivalents to CMA, is Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. And so CMA and CIMA kind of are good to look at together. So that same career path, that same foundation that we talked about with the US CMA is also applicable here when we talk about CIMA. It's recognized internationally, business strategy, financial leadership. CMA is 2 exams. CIMA is, I'll say 14, but I may be off by 1 on that. I know sometimes the number of exams change. So different scope to that in terms of the number of exams, longer process, more required levels in CIMA than there is in CMA. But absolutely a strong certification in the area of management, accounting, and that kind of business operations as well. The next certification, we kind of move to one that's a little bit more specialized, and that is CIA, Certified Internal Auditor. There's kind of a, very simple way to determine whether or not CIA is a certification that you might be interested in or would be the one for you. And that is this: if you are working in internal audit or would like to work in internal audit in the future, you should do CIA. If you don't work in internal audit now and you don't want to work in internal audit in the future, you should not do CIA. Okay, but if you are interested in that career in internal auditing and being part of that internal audit function, this is your certification. Okay, this is the best, to some extent, I believe the only internationally accepted and known or recognized certification in internal audit. And it focuses on that, talking about financial controls, vulnerabilities, helping to strengthen a company's operations. And the exam goes through that. It's not just the audit engagement, but how it is that the internal audit function adds value to the organization as a whole. And so some companies need this for compliance. Banks and insurance companies in many countries are often required to have an internal audit function. And so if you're in a country and an industry, this may be an actual compliance requirement to have an internal audit function, to have that internal audit role within the organization. And as I said, anybody that's looking for a career in internal audit, this is the certification that you need to be looking at. And this is what you're going to need to have at some point in your career. Kind of one step past CIA is CRMA, Certified in Risk Management Assurance. This is kind of a specialty certification, generally after CIA, focusing on, as the name indicates, organizational risk management. Okay, this is one of the certifications that I have, and after I had CIA, CRMA was kind of that next specialty certification within the field of risk management and risk assurance and things like that. And so we're talking about risk controls, uncovering weaknesses, strengthening the operations of the company. Okay, just that kind of specialization in risk management and designed for professionals who provide those risk-based advisory services. And so again, this may be the internal audit function. It may be people outside of the internal audit function as well, but as the name indicates, looking at risk management. We've got a couple more that we're going to look at. The next one is FMAA, Financial and Managerial Accounting Associate. This is not new anymore. It's been around for a little while with the IMA, and this is a foundational entry-level certification for those who are new to accounting or finance, and also for people that aren't new to their career, but are non-finance managers. Okay, if you're in marketing, you're in IT, you're in logistics, you're in production, there's a point at which you get in your career where you start being involved in meetings that discuss the financial statements, discuss the impact of what you're doing on the financial statements. And so if you're kind of those entry-level, early professional stage careers, positions in accounting and finance, FMAA may be what you need. If you're outside of accounting or finance, but you've risen to a level in your organization that it's now helpful if you understand the financial statements and how the financial statements work, then FMAA is what is going to provide you with that skill set. Covers the fundamentals of both financial and managerial accounting. Okay, it's a good foundation to that, what are the financial statements and how all of this work. Good for students, recent graduates, professionals starting a career in accounting or finance. And this also helps build a strong foundation before pursuing CMA or CPA or ACCA. And so this is something that FMAA, you would be able to complete potentially in 3 months. And so as you're starting your career, if you look at a couple years for CMA, a couple years for CPA, a few years for ACCA, FMAA is a way to get that first certification more quickly. It's not the same level of certification as CMA in the job market, but at those foundational positions, FMAA is going to provide what it is that you need to do your job well as you enter your career. And doing your job well is what's going to lead to those promotions and opportunities that you want going forward. So FMAA is kind of a precursor to CMA in the IMA structure. CSCA is the capstone to it, Certified in Strategy and Competitive Analysis. This is an advanced certification for professionals involved in strategic planning and decision-making. This is, I think, the only certification that I'm aware of that has strategy in the name of it. I know there's papers within ACCA and CIMA and strategy is covered within other certifications, but this is the certification that is focusing on strategy and competitive analysis. As I've said, it focuses on competitive analysis, strategic risk, value creation, long-term business growth. And so this is a certification for people who've been working for a few years and you're looking to get promoted into those higher level roles. One of the ways I kind of visualize the timeframes of work is the higher up you go in an organization, the further into the future your job is looking. Okay, when you just get hired and you're doing accounts payable for the company, you go to work and your focus is on today. That's it. Tomorrow will be tomorrow. You're just going to pay your payables, collect your receivables, whatever it is that your job is. But as you get promoted, you need to start looking more and more further into the future. And so if you're talking to somebody on the board and you ask, what happened in the company today? It's very possible that the board member doesn't know what happened today. That's not the board's focus. The board's focus is, what are we going to be doing 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And how do we make certain that we're in a position to be successful 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And so as you go through your career and you get 5, 6, 7 years in, and you're starting to look for that role that becomes a little more forward thinking, a little more strategic, then CSCA is that certification that's going to give you the tool set to be able to participate in those conversations, to be able to lead those conversations, to be able to make those strategic decisions and implement those strategic decisions. And so this is something that's often after another certification. Remember, I said there's foundational certifications and then those more specialty certifications. What makes CSCA unique is it's not a foundational certification, but it's also not a specialty, because every part of the business is touched by strategy. Every industry, every part of the business has strategy to it. And so CSCA is another certification that has very broad application. And so if you already have a certification, if you're looking to upskill a little bit, you say, I want something else, I need something to kind of distinguish myself from the other people at my level in the organization, CSCA, it's one exam. It's a great investment to get those skills that will help you be part of that strategic decision-making process that the organization has. So I said a little bit ago that there are more certifications than we would ever know. Okay, there's just a lot of certifications in a lot of industries. These are the main certifications in business, accounting, finance. And so this is something that we're not going to go into more detail about each of these certifications now. We'll have separate webinars that'll go into much more detail about the syllabus and the costs and passing and different details about that. But what this is really is just kind of the starting foundation for you in terms of making that decision about what is the right certification for you. It's very possible that some of these certifications you hadn't heard of before. And I could list 10 more certifications, and you may not have heard of those either. But it's a matter of understanding what it is that is out there. And you need to then do some research about what is out there and what it is that you want to do, and identify what are those certifications that are going to help you most accomplish what it is that you want to do. Any certification is a great investment. As I said, this is one of the best investments you can make in your future. But we want to make the right investment. If we make the right investment, the returns and the benefits are going to be even greater. So the next thing to look at is, having gone through that overview of a handful of the certifications, what are the next steps after you choose a certification? Okay, and we'll talk about this when we get into some of the more specifics, but you need to make certain that you're eligible for your certification. Different certifications have different requirements about what education is required, what degrees are required, how much experience is required. And so you want to make certain that you are eligible and you will be able to get the certification that you want to get. Okay, you don't want to start studying. You don't want to start taking time studying for an exam. It's a question of, you need to make certain you're going to be able to complete that process. Okay, and so as you need to make certain you're ready for that. You need to understand the number of exams, the total time commitment. How long is it going to take? You can only take an exam once a year or twice a year. How long is it going to take you? How much time are you going to have to study? Okay, not how much time does somebody else need to study, or how much time does the industry or the organization tell you need to study, but you need to look at the syllabus and try to make that honest assessment of how long it's going to take you to study. You also need to look at the costs, exam fees, materials. Where is the exam available? How far are you going to have to travel to take the exam? It is a great investment, but we also need to make certain that we understand that investment, both from the standpoint of time and also the standpoint of money that has to be invested in order to get that certification. But find out where it is that nearest testing center is located. And also, we kind of started with this, but this is something that we need to end with as well. Is this the certification that's going to help you do what you want to do in your career? What are the career prospects? What are the opportunities? It may be some certifications aren't as well known in some countries as they are in other countries. And so, again, you need to look at what it is you want to do with your career, what it is you're going to do, where the company, the industry, and make certain that this certification is going to help you do that. That if you're getting this, the region you're going to, the country you're going to, the industry you're going to, the companies there understand this certificate and value this certificate, and it's going to help you find a job or the job that you want. And so it's possible that, well, after you decide your certification, make all of your decisions, you have to start preparing to pass your exam. And so this is something that we are more than happy to help you with. We have comprehensive materials for CMA, CIA, EA, FMAA, CSCA, US CPA, and some others are in development and coming soon. But you need to find your materials. Obviously, I'm going to tell you that I think our materials are the best and the ones that you should use, but that's a decision that you need to make for yourself. I encourage anybody who's studying for any certification to look at the options that are out there. Every material provider should provide you some amount of a free trial, some way for you to look at the materials before you have to pay for them. And I encourage you to do that. Okay, I would like to think that if we have certification, if we have materials, you're going to choose us in the end. But I invite you and encourage you to look at other providers, whether it's material provider or a course provider. Talk to them and find who's going to be the best fit for you. Okay, it may be that the way the information is presented is different. The way the videos are done is different for different companies. And so you need to make certain that what it is that the investment that you're making is going to be the one that's going to help you get there. And as I said, start with the free trial. I know we have a free trial for all of the materials that we have, and I hope every material provider has a way for you to see the materials before you have to purchase them. But this is also something you need to look at all of the costs for and all of those things. And so I know you'll do a great deal of research on that and come to the provider, the support that is going to help you accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish. And so that is what I wanted to say and talk about in this webinar. And as Yulia mentioned, we've got some more, and we'll give you the information about those where we go into more depth about some of these certifications and look at the syllabus, look at the requirements, look at the kind of more detailed approach to how you're going to get through it. But we wanted this to be the foundation of helping you choose the best certification for you, not the best certification for somebody else. This is your decision. And so you need to make certain that you are choosing the certification that works best for you and is going to help you accomplish your career goals, help you be where it is that you want to be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now. Okay. And then there might be another certification in the future as well. But right now we're just taking this next step. It's going to be a great investment. We just want you to choose the right certification to make certain that you maximize that investment of your time and your money as you go through the study process. And so if you're interested in any of the certifications that we have materials for, you can go to our website, you can sign up for the free trial and start that today. If you have any questions, I'm going to be here and we'll be able to answer some questions here. I believe Yulia has been answering some that people have been asking, but we'll stay here and we'll answer any questions that you have. But also you can send us an email, just an email to support@hockinternational.com, and we will make certain that we get whatever questions you have answered. And so I know some of you may leave at this point and not stay for the questions and answers. So let me say thank you. I appreciate that you have given us this time. We hope that it has added value to you and that you're glad that you stayed. And I hope to see you in some of the webinars in the future where we talk in more detail about the certifications that you may be more interested in yourself. And so thank you very much for your time. And I will stay here. I think Yulia, you'll help us go through all of the questions. But thank everyone very, very much for your time this afternoon, this evening, this morning, whatever the case may be.
Yes, thank you very much, Brian. And yes, we did have quite a few questions during the webinar. I tried my best to answer them and I could, but I did save a few of them for you. The first one is about international tax accounting and which certification would be the best for that.
I really don't know that there is an international tax certification. I know
I'm so glad because I thought I should know that answer. But if you don't know the answer, then it's
ACCA may have a version of one of their tax papers that is international tax. But the problem with international taxation is it's so specific on what countries that you're involved in. And so if I'm a company that's based in the United States and I have operations in India, those tax questions are very different than if I'm a company that's in Germany that has operations in Brazil. And so those international tax questions are so specific. I'm not aware of any certification that is specifically about international taxation that would add value in terms of being able to answer those questions. It's a matter of knowing the tax code of the countries that are involved in the question for the business.
Thank you. Next question is about artificial intelligence.
Yep.
And how do you think it will be impacted the field of certifications and professional
Well,
education?
I think the answer is yes, there will be an impact. I think anybody who thinks that there won't be an impact is clearly overly optimistic. There will be an impact. There will be an impact in the accounting and finance fields and in terms of how AI is used in jobs. I think still the best way for me to communicate it and to look at it is that AI, and by AI, I mean everything. Okay. I'm just not just ChatGPT, but all of the tools that are being generated. AI is a tool that you need to know how to use. And if you don't know how to use it, you're not going to be around for very long in your position. And I think a parallel, a kind of similar example to this is if we go back 30 years to when spreadsheets became common. I remember that I was an accounting major. There was a concern that with spreadsheets, we wouldn't need accountants anymore. Well, spreadsheets have been developed a lot in the 30 years. Spreadsheets can do a lot more than they could do 30 years ago, but we still have accountants. And so there will still be jobs for people using better tools. We have better tools available to us now with AI than we had 5 years ago, 2 years ago. And so if you're starting your career, whether it's accounting, finance, whatever field it's in, you need to know how to use the tools that are available to you in your profession. I know that I think part of the question had to do with students using AI tools to study. That's a risk. And that's a risk from the standpoint that if you're going to use the AI tools to study and to try to short circuit or take shortcuts, you run the risk of actually not knowing the topic, knowing the content yourself. And one of the things that's going to happen at work is you do need to know what you're trying to do. You will have tools that will allow you to sort through all of the data better, that will allow you to take into account more data, but you still need to know what it is that you're trying to do. I know this is not an accounting example, but something that I know I've talked about at times with people is if you're going to use ChatGPT to write your email, that's a problem. I'm happy with you to use ChatGPT or whatever tool to improve your email, to proofread your email, to figure out a starting point for how to improve the way something is said. But if you sit down and you say, I need this email written, and you just take what ChatGPT writes, you're not going to have long-term success with that. It's a tool. It's a tool. It's not the doer of the job. It's the tool that allows you to do the job. And those tools will continue to evolve. And so we need to be prepared to continue to learn those new tools as we go.
Thank you. And we have a question from our current EA student. And the question is, what would be the best certification to pursue after EA?
It depends on what you want to do, really, in terms of that. If your goal is to set up your own EA practice and you want to go out and have your own clients and find your own clients, I think CMA is very good. That's how to operate a business, some of the things that you need to consider. One of the things I think a lot of entrepreneurs fail at is the recognition that operating a business is different than whatever skill it is that you have as an entrepreneur. And so as an EA, yes, you have great tax skills, but you need to set a price. What are you going to charge for different services? How are you going to determine those prices? How are you going to deal with overhead, your non-chargeable time? And so CMA is something that I think would be a nice addition, or potentially even FMAA as a starting point after EA. Just start with FMAA. That'll do the basics of budgeting, basics of journal entries. But it's something that, depending on what you're going, I mean, in terms of as a tax specialist in the US, EA is really the highest you can get. I understand CPA may be perceived to be a different level, but nothing on the CPA tax exam is going to be new for you. if you're already an EA. And so it's looking at what certification will help you leverage your EA based on what it is that you want to do.
Thank you. And the next question is, when will our CPA study materials be ready?
Certainly before January 2026. That is the case. At this point, we're hoping that it'll be the end of June that we'll have the first part ready. And this is something that it's a little more delayed than we wanted it to be, but we're working on making certain that we have the quality and everything that you expect from HOCK to have, and just have a superb system built out when we launch it.
Mm-hmm. And we have an EA student, and they're asking if they can study just by watching videos and practicing questions. They can't read textbooks because of English level.
Mostly you can do that. What I would recommend, first of all, if you're studying with us, you have access to the best EA instructor in the world. I say that with absolute confidence. And so Christy's videos are wonderful. What I would recommend is that you study with Christy's videos. You then do MCQs. And as there's MCQs you're not certain about, or something that's not completely comfortable, use the textbook for those areas that you're having issues with the MCQs.
And we have a student studying CIA and planning to do CRMA afterwards, and finding the most challenging audits are those that involve finance and accounting work. Would CMA be useful or overkill?
CMA would be very useful for that. I don't know. I wouldn't say that it would be overkill, because I don't think it is. I would say that CMA is how a business operates. And so that, as an internal auditor, having that CMA background, in fact, for a while, I still would. If somebody tells me I'm a CMA, what would be another kind of additional certification? I would say CIA, and similarly CIA to CMA. Because as a CIA, you're doing more than just the financial statements. You're not an external auditor. And so understanding how a business operates, the decisions a business is making. So CMA, I believe, would be an excellent addition to being a CIA.
Mm-hmm. What course would you suggest for transfer pricing process in an MNC?
This may be an answer you weren't expecting, but I wouldn't take a certification for that. I would go into LinkedIn Learning or some platform like that and try to find a specific course. The reason I say that is because transfer pricing is a very specific topic. There's also a lot of tax and compliance elements to that as well. In different countries, you need to meet their tax requirements. And so I would look for a specialist course that is simply about transfer pricing, multinational transfer pricing.
Okay, and next question is about qualification for the designations. For example, CPA needs a bachelor's degree, and I assume it's different for each certification.
Yeah, well, this is something we'll talk about into the specifics. CPA actually needs a master's degree in most states in the United States. That's starting to change, but it hasn't yet. Most of the certifications require a bachelor's degree to get the license or certification. A lot of them you can study and pass exams while you're at university, but you won't be able to get your certification until you've graduated and gotten the prerequisite experience. The two certifications that do not require a bachelor's degree are enrolled agent, EA, and FMAA. Those are both available to individuals who don't have a bachelor's degree. And so if that's a limiting factor for you, then EA and FMAA would be the certifications that are applicable when you don't have a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm. And next question is if CFA is after CMA US is a good idea.
It's a good idea if you want to go into investment banking. If you don't want to go into investment banking, it's probably, or portfolio management, that's probably not the certification that I would get. CFA, as I said, gets into very, very detailed and technical and mathematical work about portfolio management and investments. And so if that's not something you're going to do, it's going to be very difficult to stick with your studying as you go through levels 2 and 3 of CFA.
Mm-hmm. And after completion of MBA Finance, I started working in accounting. Now I have more than 15 years of experience working as currently senior accountant. Now started CMA US with HOCK. what can I do to grow?
Well, I think it will certainly help you grow. When you get a certification, one of the things that should help, should be a benefit, is simply the knowledge you learn. And with 15 years of experience, I know there's a lot of CMA you already know. Okay, there's going to be whole sections you just say, I've been doing this for the past 6 years. I know how to do a budget. I understand all of this, but not everything. And so having that broader perspective, that additional knowledge and information into some other areas will help you perform your job better. Now, is that going to lead to a promotion in your company where you work now? I don't know. I don't know what the structure is as to how, whether that opportunity exists or not. But it's also something that, because it's a certification exam, it demonstrates what you know in a tangible way that others are more easily able to see. And so if you're looking for a different job in a different company, one of the criteria may be, do you have a certification? And CMA will check that box for you to allow you to have that, to go through that, what might be an AI screen of your CV or your resume. Having CMA you'll meet that requirement, and you'll continue through the process.
Mm-hmm. And is it enough to just read HOCK textbooks to prepare for CMA exam?
Well, no. There's also a question, is it compulsory? Do you have to do it? No, you don't have to do it. We recommend it. And if you just read the textbook, you will fail the exam. Doing the MCQs is a significant part of the learning process. It's a question of taking what it is that you've learned theoretically and being able to apply that to an exam situation. And so, just as I mentioned with EA, you can start with the videos, you can start with the textbook, it doesn't matter, but you need to read it and then do the MCQs. And then for the MCQs you don't fully understand, you need to go back to either the textbook or the video to make certain that you have that foundation. But you don't have to read the textbook. It will certainly help. You can use the videos as your primary source. That's fine. But then you'll be using the textbook as kind of a reference point. Or you can start with the textbook and use the videos as a reference point.
Mm-hmm. There is a student from India, completed MCOM and working in finance, accounts receivables, and payable. How to upgrade myself and which certification would help me enhance my career?
Again, it depends on what it is that you want to do 5 years from now. But given what you are in right now, I would look at CMA. With 2 exams, it's going to be a shorter exam process based on the fact you have an MCOM. You may have exemptions from a number of ACCA papers, which I know is another common one in India. But it's a question of looking at what it is that you want to do and which certifications are going to help you do that.
Mm-hmm. And then there is a CSCA student who says that we don't have enough real test practice in the system, and asking if we're planning to add more.
Yeah, we will be doing that. We're actually right now working on kind of a revision, an update to the textbook. We've had it for a couple of years now. We've been getting feedback, and so we'll be rolling out some new things with the CSCA program here in the next couple of months.
Mm-hmm. And 2 questions related to FMAA. We have a student who is currently pursuing EA and wondering if FMAA would be a good course to add to that. And then someone who has already finished FMAA and wondering if next should be CMA or FMVA.
If you've already done EA, I think FMAA would be a very good accounting course. One of the things that we know is that if you're practicing EA, you end up working with a lot of businesses, and those businesses may not understand accounting themselves. And so you may end up being forced into providing some of that accounting service yourself to them. And so FMAA would be a very good, and also not a long-term commitment. So after EA, FMAA is one of the certifications that I would recommend, just in terms of building out the rest of your kind of skill set that you can offer to your clients. And somebody who just finished FMAA, CMA, or FMVA, again, if you're going into a specific field where FMVA is more relevant, then you should do that. FMAA is a good foundation for CMA because everything in FMAA outside of Section A is on the CMA exam. And so by studying FMAA, you've actually done some of the studying for CMA. And so CMA is a nice one to add on after FMAA because you're already kind of part of the way way through that.
And we have one more question related to FMAA. Someone that has bachelor's degree in marketing and wanting to pursue master's in business analytics. Would FMAA be recommended for some understanding of accounting and finance?
Yeah, I would. If they have no background in accounting at all up to this point, FMAA will be an introduction to the debits and credits. And that is still part of understanding how accounting works. And so FMAA is a good foundation for somebody who isn't in accounting or finance, but needs to have some awareness of it, but doesn't want to become a CPA. And so one of the ways you can look at FMAA is kind of finance for non-financial managers. It's in that scope of courses where it's close. It's that finance for non-financial manager type of course.
Mhm. And if you want to market yourself as fractional CFO, which certification would you choose?
It would have to be one that is widely recognized. And so I think that would be CPA, CMA, ACCA, depending on what country you're in, as to what those kind of, you're kind of looking at what are the certifications in your area, wherever it is that you are. What are the certifications companies want their CFOs to have? And so whatever certification a company would want their CFO to have, if they had a full-time CFO, that would be the certification that they would be looking for somebody that they're going to hire as a fractional CFO to have as well.
Mhm. And we have a student who is already CFP or attendee who is CFP and asking which certification is best after that, and also ACCA, and asking if you'd recommend to pursue CPA after that or another certification.
Yeah. In terms of what to do after CFP, I don't know. I guess one that I've heard is that if your clients are in the US, it would be enrolled agent so that you can provide tax services to those clients in addition to the financial planning services. But again, what is your business? Where are you working? What is going to help you? I can't answer that question specifically for you, but other than that idea that a tax certification, if it's applicable, whatever country you're in, the tax certification that would allow you to provide tax services to the people that you're doing the financial planning for.
Mhm. Um, I think we're running out of time.
Yeah.
There are a few general questions about scoring of CMA exam, and we do have this information on our website, and you are more than welcome to follow up with us by email. We'll send you the links and give the questions and how to be a part of HOCK International. I think we're always happy to receive a resume. If you'd like to send it to us, it's support@hockinternational.com. I don't think we're actively hiring right now, but we're always happy to review.
Always happy to talk to good people.
Yes, yes. And Brian, is there anything else you'd like to add, or maybe another one final question to answer to still have there? Because it's.
I think the questions that we haven't answered, please send us an email. It's something that I'm happy to answer, and it's it's just something that we could be here for a long time answering questions, and I want to make certain that we're respectful of everybody's time. There's a growing number of questions.
Yeah.
Certification, choosing your certification is up to you in terms of looking at what it is that you want to go. The question that somebody asked about fractional CFO, and the way I answered that in terms of what is the certification people are looking for in their CFO? And then that's the certification you should have to be a fractional CFO. That is part of the decision. What is the certification that people in the position you want to have in the future have? And that would be part of that decision for you in terms of indicating that this is the certification that will help you achieve your goal in terms of your career goals, how it is that you're going to do that. There's a couple of questions that talk about in a particular country, what certifications are better known. The best answer, I have my opinion from what I know. The best thing to do to find out about a specific certification in a country or even a city is to talk to an HR recruiter. They will know what certifications are asked for the most. They will know whether or not the certification you're considering is known or not known in that area. And so, the question about Germany and Europe. I know, as from what I understand, Germany has its very own unique costing system. And so if that is still the case, then that's probably what is required within Germany. To go to a multinational company, if you're looking to do that, then something like CMA is going to help you do that, because in that case, you're maybe in Germany, but your target employer isn't necessarily German, but somewhere outside of Germany. And so one of the things that we need to keep in mind as we go through this process of making this decision is the best person to ask a specific question of is a specialist. And so sometimes that specialist is an HR recruiter. Sometimes that specialist may be me, but I'm not a specialist in the labor market in any country, any specific country. And so don't be afraid to reach out to somebody who has the knowledge that you need. And so if we didn't answer your question and it has to do with certifications, absolutely send us an email. We'll be happy to answer that question and connect with you. Or I know there was a question about how is the CMA exam scored? Well, we can send you a link. We have a page on our website that goes through that process in great detail about how that is scored. And so if you have any questions that we can answer, we will certainly answer them. But similarly, we recognize that we don't know the answer to every question. And so if you ask us a question and we don't know, we'll say that. We won't ever make up an answer, and we may point you in the right direction as to find somebody who will help you get that information you need. But, anytime you have the opportunity to get the advice or comments of a specialist, that's who's in the best position to answer that question for you.
Well, thank you very much, Brian, and thank you everyone who joined us today. I will send the recording later today, and you can just respond to that email with the recording link with your questions that still left unanswered. And as Brian said, we will do our best to answer all of those questions. And if it's not our question to us, we will tell you so.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you in future webinars where we talk about some of these exams and some of these certifications in much more detail. And if you didn't get your question answered here, we can hopefully get to it when we get into the more specialized webinars. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.